for the Defense of Democracies. Cliff, these photos are now out. Your take on them. What do you make?
Well, I think they are credible, and they're consistent with previous reports we've had of torture, of the use of starvation and other tactics. It may be that Assad has given up his chemical weapons, but he's sort of been given license to slaughter his own people in any other way he chooses and to do anything else he wants to them, and it's not a good outcome.
Should we be surprised? Obviously, when you see these photos, it brings it right home what is going on there. But we have been hearing about certainly accusations of war crimes and torture ever since the Arab Spring, so to speak, hit Syria.
No, we shouldn't be surprised. We have heard these reports. They have been credible reports. To be fair, on the other side, you have Al-Qaeda aligned or really Al-Qaeda allegiance troops, fighters also committing terrible crimes and terrible war crimes. The sad part is that within Syria there are those who are secularized, who are nationalists, who are not pro-Iranian, as Assad is, who are not pro-Al-Qaeda, as his main opposition is, and they are sort of orphans. They're getting support from no one. They are sort of the odd man out. The best people there have simply not gotten any support from the U.S., from Canada, from Europe, from the West. They've been left on the sidelines.
How do you think this is going to play out? Could anyone actually face charges here?
Very unlikely. We haven't seen that in the past in many places. I don't think we'll see it here. Assad is being protected by the Russians. He obviously has the support of the Iranians. And when I say support, I don't just mean moral support, I don't just mean financial support. I'm talking about elite Iranian troops who are on the ground fighting Assad's battles. The same is true of Hezbollah, which is essentially an Iranian proxy foreign legion based in Lebanon. Their troops also have been in Syria supporting Assad. So the idea that the international community is going to do anything about it, look, we've got a tribunal starting up for Hariri. He was murdered years ago. We are having other people who are good, decent people in Lebanon being murdered. I believe the evidence points to Syrian and Iranian compliance. We're not going to see, I think, any ramifications, any consequences. The Iranians, the Assad regime, they all get away with murder routinely.
So the Russians, the Iranians, these photos released won't give them pause?
No, I think Putin thinks the boys will be boys. This is what happens in a war situation. Assad has to defend himself, let them surrender. Not that they would be treated well if they did. No, I don't think Putin will shed a single salty tear over this, and the Iranians even less so. On the contrary, they may say, well, this should show those who need to understand what happens if you oppose us. This is how you will be treated. This is what you will come to. Do not oppose us. This is the result.
Before we go, this all comes out, of course, one day before the beginning of a peace conference in Switzerland that is going to try anyway to come to some kind of a deal and stop the fighting in Syria. Your hopes for that conference as it begins, Cliff?
My hopes are very slim for that conference. I think the most that we can expect are some temporary and very localized ceasefires and perhaps some assistance to the humanitarian groups who are trying to bring medical assistance and food and water and other things to some of the civilians. Maybe they'll get a little bit of safe passage. But as for resolving this conflict, I think that the odds are very, very, very low.
So the peace conference will be sort of a first step, do you think, in kind of a series of conferences with sort of very small results that might eventually, down the line, add up to something tangible?
Could be, but they also could be small steps on the way to a dead end. I think the conflict is going to be unresolved. I think the most likely outcome short term might be a standoff, where Assad gets the territories pretty much in the eastern part of the country that he most wants, the productive areas, the cities, the seacoast, the border with Lebanon, and the Al-Qaeda-linked groups to have safe havens elsewhere in the country, which is not a good result. And the nationalist opposition, they're kind of caught in between in the worst shape of all. I don't see a simple resolution on the horizon, and I don't think meetings and conferences like this are necessarily part of a peace process. That's the hope, but I don't think we can rest assured that's the way it's going to work out.
Clifford May, the president of the Foundation for Defense of Democracies. Cliff, thanks so much for talking to us from Washington. Appreciate it.